Fantastic. So welcome to the Thriving Through Midlife, our diet and nutrition edition. So did you know the women's ambition increased after the age of 55 before peaking at the age of 65? While many of us fear aging as a time in our lives when we will become invisible, it can actually be a vibrant and empowering moment to finally learn to embrace who we really are and push ahead with our goals. In fact, the Harvard Business Review recently found that contrary to popular belief, many women reach their peak in the second stages of their life. Happily accepting the process of aging can have a huge psychological benefits to both our work and our personal lives. So today we have three women who are thriving through midlife, who are going to head this conversation on diet and nutrition, particularly in this segment of our lives in midlife and above. Our speakers are Brenda Rogers, Chizza Westcar, and Linda Roach. So we're going to get straight into it with our first question. Okay, we're really pleased to see all three of you. And let's start with, why don't we start with you, Chizza, because you were the first one on here. Sure. We're going to start with the first question, okay? So can you share your journey into working with women in midlife and around diet and nutrition?
Sure. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies. My name, as Faith has said, is Chizza Westcar, and I'm a nutritional medicine practitioner. I'm also a skin expert. And my journey, I think it really ramped up when I became menopausal myself, because I started to notice that I was attracting more and more menopausal women to my services. And I think when I became menopausal and actually accepted the fact that I was, things really changed for me. For a long time, I was in denial. And I think I was in denial mainly because I've been told that I don't look the age that I am. I turn 57 next month in August. And so there was almost a kind of stigma, which I think a lot of you would relate to, societal stigma around being menopausal and, as Faith said, almost becoming invisible. But I think that the moment that I embraced it, because personally, I have had a wonderful journey, as I still am, through menopause. I don't have any of the normal symptoms that are so bothersome. I sleep really well. You know, I've managed with diet and nutrition to keep my weight under control. I don't really have any symptoms. And so my journey, my mission became one of wanting to really help women feel the same way, and to get through the challenges that they were facing by changing their diet and sort of, you know, tweaking their lifestyles. And so the sorts of common concerns that I found women coming to see me for were things like bloating and irregular bowel function and low mood and, you know, this inevitable weight gain, especially around the middle, and not knowing what to do about it because they hadn't really changed their diet. And what I've been able to do is to give them tools that they can then apply and, like I said, make some long-lasting changes.
Beautiful. Thank you, Chizza. And the middle area is certainly an area that I'm going to come to you for some help on.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable, but we can do something about it. We can definitely do something about it.
Fantastic. Okay, over to you, Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda Roach. I'm a clinical nutritionist. I always say that I had a midlife crisis, but I've rephrased that recently and said I've had a midlife reset. I've worked in finance most of my life, watched my own family have steadily decline in health. I have heart disease, both from high calcium and high cholesterol running through both sides of the family, arthritis, digestive issues, everything. I hit my 40s and I don't know if I can say this, but I felt like crap. That my body was hurting. I've got a spinal condition I've inherited from my father, and I've seen him just lose his mobility and joy for life, and could see myself heading down the same way. And I made a decision that I wanted to do something about it. I was brought up largely by my grandmother, who taught me how to cook. She was a professional cook in service, and I always had a love of food. It seemed logical then that I would study food, diet, etc. And the more I learned about the immense impact that what you put in your mouth has on your body, the more I became really enlivened to change my own health. I found that I was actually feeling younger with each day. And I'm a pro-aging advocate. I don't advocate for anti-aging at all. I think we should embrace aging. But my body and my mind were getting better as I aged. And I thought, oh my God, I'm not so much turning the clock back, I'm living my full life because I've changed my diet. Then I looked at a lot of people around me and saw that through long-term poor decisions, and not, necessarily consciously poor, but just habits, people were jeopardizing the ability to live a really good, vibrant, healthy third age. And it became my passion then I'd actually treat men and women, to really get people to understand their bodies and to put the right things in to get that wonderful, healthy third age. So I'm living proof. I'm 58 and I still work a little bit in finance, get my hand in there, but I'm also doing my nutritionist. I exercise regularly, do bar, Pilates. I was doing bar at 7 o'clock this morning. So there's no reason that other people can't be as healthy and happy as I am. So that's my mission in life, is to get you all where I am.
Amazing, thank you. And that, what I got from that is that knowledge is key. That's great. So thank you. Brenda?
Good morning, ladies. My name is Brenda Rogers, and I have been a naturopath for over 30 years. So yes, I'm 33, so I just started very young. No, I am not ashamed of my age. In fact, Chiza, we must be very close because my 57th birthday is in September. So
Virgo, yes.
Yeah.
Virgo?
I think it's the Virgo thing to become into natural medicine. I also am a holistic nutritionist, so the nutrition aspect of it really, really appealed to me. My grandparents were peasants, they were farmers, they were Dutch immigrants, and everything was from scratch and out of the garden. There was just this tendency to be, wholesome like that. And I love the peasant lifestyle. I think, those breads that are as heavy as bricks and hot, slow cooked meals and that kind of thing, so nourishing and rich for our soul as well as our bodies. Given that I studied naturopathy when I was in my early 20s, I went on to study, as you do, ladies, if you're into healing, you can't stop at one qualification, you've got to just keep adding to it. So I did life coaching in the early 2000s and really enjoyed the deeper work that opened up, and then studied aromatherapy and homeopathy and these tools that we have for transformation that us women aren't taught about. They're women's wisdom, skills and techniques and resources that we often don't learn about. So by the time I got to my mid-40s, my perimenopause, I thought I knew enough to cruise through, it's like, menopause is not going to happen to me. I was in denial, just like everyone else. And, but it didn't go that well. It was quite an emotional roller coaster. And one of the things that came out of that for me was that that knowing didn't always make a difference. It was doing what I knew and also getting out of my head and into my heart. So my journey deepened in my mid-40s, and it went into, I want to be an intuitive eater. I want to know my body. I want to be able to stop eating Tim Tams after 2 or 3 rather than when there's nothing left in the cupboard. And so my journey, quite a long journey really, it has been in moving into that embodiment and inner work, so that when we're talking about nutrition, it's not just facts and figures, but it's holistic.
Beautiful. I love the idea of that intuitive eater. And that's something that I feel like my mother has. She's always had that ability to know what her body needs. So I love that. And I think that because of the way advertising and food industry is, a lot of us have lost that. So I really feel excited about going back to that. So that's great. So thank you for that. So we're going to go to question 2, and we'll go to you again, Chiza. So what are the common misconceptions around diet and nutrition for women in midlife and beyond that you've come across?
So I've put them down as myths. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah.
I think the first one is that weight gain is inevitable and there's nothing we can do about it. So with a lot of the women that I see who come to me, they almost come with a resignation that, oh, well, they're middle-aged and, you know, it's part and parcel of it. My mum was the same. So, but the reason why they've come is because they really don't feel well. So I do personalized nutrition. So we use a blood test. We then analyze 35 blood values, which we send off to Germany. And then we get sent a food plan specifically for the client. And so it's amazing. And we don't focus on weight loss. We focus on optimized nutrition and optimized health. And in the process of optimizing their health and reducing their inflammation, weight drops off, right? So I think the focus around weight is something that we are fixated on as a society, but it should be more around what that weight represents, which is inflammation in the body, which for menopausal women is dangerous because it's linked to a lot of the symptoms that we experience. So rather than me focusing on getting them to lose the weight, I'm wanting to really optimize their health by changing their eating. And then as a consequence, the weight definitely does drop. Another thing is, another myth is, oh, when women come to me with symptoms, they've been told, suck it up, you know, you're middle-aged, menopause happens. My mum, you know, your mother went through it, our mothers went through it, you know, don't make such a big fuss about it. And something that Linda said that really resonates with me is, I think my mission is to really get women feeling the vitality that I feel. I want women to thrive through this midlife. And so one of the things that I do with my little group that I have is by changing their diet and educating them, they really do get almost like a second wind. The pain disappears, they've got energy for days, and they really start to thrive. So my thing is, as a menopausal woman who is struggling with symptoms that are quite debilitating, there is definitely a solution and you don't have to struggle through it. And then my last one is carbs. That in order to lose weight, you can't eat carbs. I think the misconception there is that people think of carbs as being just bread or pasta, but carbs are found in vegetables and fruit. So it's not that you can't eat carbs. What we know as menopausal women is that our metabolism changes. Insulin resistance becomes a struggle as cortisol levels drop. So there is going to be a tendency, absolutely, to increase weight if we eat those processed, refined kinds of carbohydrates, the biscuits, the bread. Refined processed carbs are the ones that become more problematic with us getting to menopause and beyond. So it's definitely not that we can't eat carbs, it's changing the kinds of carbs that we're now going to be eating, making them sort of more whole foods based, real foods, rather than processed packaged foods, which are usually devoid of fiber. Our gut microbiome, this ecosystem within us that's thriving with tens of trillions of microorganisms, they actually need fiber to keep us healthy. One of the things that I really stress is that 80% of our immune system is found in the gut. Our gut bacteria educate our immune system. Autoimmune conditions become more common in menopausal women, and it all starts in the gut. So we've got to optimize our health by feeding our bacteria with the right nutrition. So the myth of not being able to have carbs and fat, because they'll make you fat, it should more be that we change the kinds of fats we have. Avocado, you know, is a good source of fat. So rather than inflammatory fats that are found in, you know, your fast food, it's really just going back to nature and, you know, just eating foods that Mother Nature would sort of give the big thumbs up to, foods that we can recognize because they have not been processed in any way. They're the best ones, I think. So yes, they're the three myths that I thought I would bring up and try and bust.
Definitely busted them with me. I love the emphasis of moving away from weight gain to optimizing nutrition. I think that's a really powerful message. And the messaging was so clear and succinct. I really love it. I felt like, you know, what you talked about was so accessible. Like I can actually do that and I can actually get results. So I really love that. So thank you very much. Let's go to Linda.
Yeah, I was giving this some thought, and the main thing that came out to me that's a misconception about aging was the one that I had, is that this is inevitable. I don't have agency over this. You know, my parents did it, they got ill, I'm going to get ill because it's genetic. The thing about genes, though, is you can have a genetic predisposition to something. It doesn't necessarily have to actually happen. And you are the one in control of that. And I think I'm not bashing Western medicine at all. It's done some amazing things. But one thing it does tend to do is just treat things. Like, you know, you come there like, oh, I've got high blood pressure or I've got high cholesterol. Great, have a pill for that. And it seems inevitable that we're going to get these things, and then we just have to treat them. And we rely on medication, pharmacy. Many people I know are in the 60s and 70s, and they've got what we call polypharmacy, where you've got your little pill box with all your pills ranged in it. And we see it so frequently, we think it's inevitable, but it isn't. This is a new thing that's happened. This isn't how our ancestors did it. They, as Chiz has touched on, they had a really clean diet. They ate the food that they needed. You know, if you're less active as you age because you've got an office job rather than, you know, being out in the field doing something, then, you know, you alter your diet and match it. And it goes to Brenda's thing about being intuitive in what you eat. Your body will change as you age. That part is inevitable. Does that change have to mean that you are going to become ill? Or you're going to have problems with, you know, the way your body functions on a physiological level? No. You can actually change and it be a good thing, so long as your diet matches the changes in your body. And this is where we do have to accept that we're aging, and we adapt to that different reality. I don't intend to be sick. I've got a mental image that I'm going to be like running along the beach with my dog in my late 80s, and I'm holding that image, and it keeps me on track. So yeah, when I open the Tim Tams, there is a temptation to go to the end of it. I'm very hard to think about a half-open packet of Tim Tams sitting in the cupboard. It does shout to me. So I make the choice not to bring it into the house. If I do, I know I'm going to indulge, and I'll do it that once and go, okay, I've done that. I'll be a couple of months till I do it. So I have to be so in touch with my body and listen to it. Yes, it's changing as I age, but not necessarily in a bad way. So I want people to realize that they have agency over their own bodies. When you stop and you listen to it and you really get into, you know, if I eat that, I get really tired in the afternoon. If I eat that, my shoulders or my back starts to ache. You know, listen to that, listen to the feedback system. Your body is the most amazing feedback system. Your brain is connected to every part of it, and it will tell you when you're doing something that's not good. Honor your body enough that you will make changes to your diet to get you to older age. Like, and I look at Faith doing her swimming in the morning and think, oh, you just look spectacular. And that, you know, we can't all look like Faith. I really wish I did, but no, I'm shorter and I'm slightly stockier. It doesn't bother me because I'm healthy. You don't have to look like, you know, some, you know, Helen Mirren or Jamie Lee Curtis, who are amazing advocates for aging well. You can be yourself and be the best version of yourself and honor that, you know, really want it and go for it and make the subtle changes. Yeah. So that's my misconception, is it's not inevitable. You do have agency, you can change.
Yeah, that's really powerful, that message about it not being genetically disposed. Like, we can actually change that. So that's really, really powerful. And that, you know, we make those adaptations and it changes, and aging does not have to lead to dis-ease. It doesn't have to lead to disease. So I really love that. Thank you. Brenda?
Yeah, beautiful, Linda, Chiza. First of all, I'm going to say that I gave up Tim Tams years ago when I discovered they don't actually have any real chocolate in them. They've got like 3 different colorings that make them look brown. And so I've now gone to fat bombs, and I make my own fat bombs, which aren't a bad thing. They're a good thing. If you want to find some beautiful ways to eat healthy fats and slightly sweet, bit of chocolate, then Google fat bombs and you'll find some beautiful recipes. My three, I'm just going to quickly go through my three myths. First of all, as practitioners, our job is to challenge some of the beliefs, the limiting beliefs that our clients have. And one of the ones that I come across quite regularly is that I don't have time. And in particular, I don't have time to cook. I don't have time to be in the kitchen. And I challenge that because if it's a priority, if it's important, if your wellness and your future and your, avoiding Alzheimer's and avoiding osteoporosis and all those things are important to you, then you will find the time. So I teach a weekly class, and I often am teaching basic cooking skills: how to make kombucha, how to make pate, how to make sauerkraut. And I find these skills have often been lost because our mothers, they said, no, darling, I'll cook for you, you go and study. Or even our mothers didn't know about it. So I think that there's a lot of joy in being a kitchen goddess, and I love to inspire women to embrace their inner kitchen medicine goddess and spend a little bit more time in the kitchen making foods, not necessarily everything from scratch. But this goes to my second point, and that is the misconception that we can't eat butter, cream, and bacon. It's like, that is not true. And I know, Chiza, I think your basis is the Wise Traditions diet. Your GAPS trained as well. So there is this knowledge that small amounts of those beautiful foods, like whipped cream on stewed apples or a homemade something or other, is way better than some protein bar from the shop that's got artificial fats and artificial this and artificial that in it. So, the better quality cream that you can get, not only do you get, better nutrients, but also you're supporting industries like the small farm industry, the artisanal foods, ethical farmers, those kinds of things, by buying really quality foods, including bacon at your farmer's market. So bacon's a wonderful flavourer. Bacon fat is amazing. So I think there's a lot of myths around that we need to dispel. And my final one, just quickly, Faith, is that HRT is safe. So I don't really like a lot of the things that the medical profession does, and I'm quite happy to say that there's a lot of misconception, a lot of ignorance, a lot of downright, pulling the wool over our eyes. And one of them in particularly is HRT. I think, and I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm saying be very, very conscious. Bioidentical hormone replacement therapy is no different because it's still synthetic. It still leads to estrogen dominance, potentially saturating the tissues. And be very, very careful of HRT masking some of your underlying symptoms and address the health. So if you can't, let me just finish with this. My preference is to not need any medication at all. The next preference is have medication and you do all the things that reduce any of the risks through nutrition and diet and herbs and those kinds of things. And then the third option is take the medications and, don't do anything. But with wisdom and knowledge, we don't have to go to that place.
I like that old idea about food as medicine. I think that's essentially what you're saying, and I think that's what I'm really hearing. So I love that. And I love the kitchen goddess. I'm certainly doing that. And I make my own kombucha and I love it. Love my kombucha. And Dr. Jane says here, I love my fat bombs. So about fat bombs. This is the first time I've ever heard of them. But I'm going to be looking them up for sure, because I love making things from scratch. Okay, so we're going to go to the third question, which is, what's your diet and nutrition do's and don'ts? So this is your personal ones, okay? Your personal do's and don'ts. Chiza, we'll start with you again.
Before I give them, can I just come back
Yeah.
and comment on what Brenda has talked about? So it's fantastic that we are all in the nutrition space, but we have very, very different views. Now, last year, a paper was released. It was the largest nutritional paper or study of its kind ever, called the Zoe Predict study. And the Zoe Predict study actually looked at two cohorts, menopausal women, but also identical twins. Identical twins, of course, are genetically identical. But what they did was they put them on a diet, a very, very high calorific diet, to see how their gut microbiomes responded. And they were shocked to see that they did not respond the same way. One twin remained thin and completely unaffected by this highly calorific diet. The other twin, in a lot of cases, put on a lot of weight. And the conclusion was that we as humans are not the same. So we do not respond to a one size fits everybody kind of proposition. They found that our gut microbiome, this tens of trillions of bacteria and viruses and, fungi that live within us, are actually responsible for how we either respond to the foods we eat, to stress in our environment, etc. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that this study looked at menopausal women, and it found that in menopause, our gut microbiome changes dramatically. And this is why a lot of the symptoms that we experience happen, because with estrogen decline, insulin levels go up, I mentioned. The gut microbiome does not respond the same way. It is responsible for metabolism, actually. So it is actually why we either put on weight easily or not. And so it's so important to optimize our gut bacteria. So what this study found was that insulin levels go up, cortisol levels go up, metabolism tanks, right? Sleeping becomes impossible. And so the conclusion was, we can no longer eat those highly processed carbohydrates the way we always have, because we no longer have the capacity for our bodies to metabolize them. That was the first finding. The second finding was that with menopause, we end up losing muscle mass. Muscle mass is so important for a menopausal woman because it keeps us upright. We topple over when we don't have muscle mass to keep our balance right. But muscle mass is also important for insulin sensitivity. We are more prone to type 2 diabetes as menopausal women because of this change in estrogen dropping and insulin levels coming up. By starting with weight-bearing exercises, which is what this study recommended, we can really counter this new risk of metabolic syndrome, which are a cluster of diseases, including heart attack and stroke, that menopausal women now find themselves at. But interestingly, it also looked at hormone replacement therapy. Now, Brenda mentioned putting synthetic medication into the body, and I want to counter that. Now, I am a 56, almost 57-year-old woman. I was diagnosed with I was diagnosed with hyperthyroidism or Graves' disease. Thyroid conditions are very common with menopausal women. And I was told I'd have to take my thyroid out, which I refused to do. I then went on to this journey of trying to look at how I could change what was going on inside of me, which had nothing to do with my thyroid, but was more about my gut, because it's an autoimmune condition, it's gut related. And I cut out gluten and alcohol and all of those inflammatory foods that for me were a problem. And I am now euthyroid. And I have been this way for 7 years. Now, I was put, when I was first diagnosed, on a thyroid medication, which did not agree with me. My liver enzymes went through the roof. My point is, in response to being diagnosed with hypothyroidism, I was given a hormone to try and regulate my hyperactive thyroid gland. If someone goes to a doctor and is diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, they will be given insulin to try and regulate their blood sugar levels, right? This is what, just bear with me because I'm coming to the conclusion. When a woman reaches 50, 45 and beyond, she is now estrogen deficient. She is deficient in that hormone estrogen, which has terrible implications for this woman in a lot of cases, because every single cell in our bodies has a receptor for estrogen. Our brains become fogged. We lose concentration. Our eyes are affected. We lose muscle mass. Osteoporosis is a concern. Our hearts are no longer protected because we no longer have estrogen to protect our hearts. There are so many debilitating states that women find themselves in. There are women who have suicidal ideations. I see these women.
This study said HRT is not a panacea. It's not the only thing, but you've got to optimize a woman's hormones, change her diet, get her exercising. It is a range of support mechanisms that have to be put in place. Now, there is a misconception that HRT is synthetic. It no longer is. Those synthetic hormones were what the one study, the WHI study from 20-something years ago, pregnant mare's urine was used in that study. But in that study, in that cohort, there were women who were in their 60s and 70s who were also part of the study that found that HRT was linked to breast cancer. That was synthetic. Those people who already had pre-existing conditions should not have been put in the study in the first place. But those of you who are, I mean, we're all sort of in that age group, so we would know that maybe our mothers were taken off HRT overnight all of a sudden. Women were taken off HRT across the world because of this risk to breast cancer, and they suffered terribly. The study has since been redone with the right cohort, women in their 40s and 50s, but the study has been redone using soy and wild yam. That is what your body identical hormones are made from. Bioidentical hormones are what doctors who are trying to play safe will give a woman in place of HRT, thinking that they're better. But bioidentical hormones that are now also wild yam and soy based are exactly the same as body identical. The difference between the two is that body identical hormones are regulated. They have the clinical trials behind them. Bioidentical hormones are not regulated, right? You go to a compounding chemist, a pharmacist, and he makes them up for you. My point is, if a woman is struggling with her sleep, with her dry vagina, with having no libido, with all of these issues or symptoms that are associated with menopause, and she's tried me, with me recommending that she, gets her diet right and she's lifting weights and she's still struggling, I send every woman to the Australasian Menopause Society page because they are the peak body for menopause research. I don't see HRT as a drug. I see it as a hormone that is replacing your depreciated hormones or depleted hormones. Wild yam and soy, Japanese, Korean women do not have symptoms that are as debilitating as what we have in the West because their diet is mainly a natural diet and they have soy in their diet, for example. So all I'm trying to say is I wanted to give another perspective, because while there are clinicians that are against HRT, I absolutely am not. I myself started HRT the other day. It's been about maybe 5 months now after I was completely against HRT, not interested. I'll just manage my symptoms if I get any with exercise and diet. I don't have any symptoms, but I'm now on HRT for brain health. We are at risk of dementia as menopausal women. I'm doing a PhD next year in dementia research on menopausal women because it is such an issue. So it's important for us to look at both sides, and I don't want anyone to be scared about HRT because it's no longer synthetic. It is now of natural source.
Now, I'm going to give Brenda just a minute because we are kind of running over.
Sure.
I'm going to give Brenda a minute.
Sorry, but I just wanted to sort of say that.
No, I feel the passion, and it's really good for us to have this information.
Yeah,
so I'm going to give Brenda just 1 minute to come back in, and then we'll go back on track. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that, but I just wanted to say that.
No, heard the passion. Brenda, go for it. A minute, okay?
No, I think it's fantastic that they were having this discussion. There's just two things that I differ a little bit, Chiza, in your perspective. First of all, I don't consider menopause to be estrogen deficiency. I think that estrogen is deficient perhaps or reduced relative to when we're menstruating, because a menstrual woman is driven by estrogen and progesterone and other reproductive hormones. I don't, and I'm sure you don't either, I don't view menopause as a disease, and I feel like the language that menopause is an estrogen deficiency disorder is misleading. And I know that you agree with this as well. So I like to think of our bodies are meant to decline in estrogen at around 45 to 50. Why is that? And what's next? So that's a longer conversation, Faith. We could have just a whole session on this.
We should.
The other thing is that I have researched HRT as well, and including bioidentical hormones. And yes, the starting material was soy, or I believe cactus or wild yam, but that is now synthesized in the laboratory. And so it is considered, from what I've read and what I believe, to be a synthetic hormone. And, you know, what I love about it these days is that there's patches and there's creams, and then you can put small amounts around the vagina for dryness or painful sex and so on, rather than just the big dose that we had back in the 60s. My aunt died from the pill, by the way. She had a clot, and because it was just such a large dose. So I think there's a little bit of and the other aspect of it is there is a massive, massive PR campaign from the pharmaceutical industry behind giving women hormones. It starts at teens with acne. It starts with the pill, secondly with the pill and contraception, and then it's into postmenopausal. And I'm a little bit suspicious of ka-ching, the pharmaceuticals. So I do have a little bit of cynicism. I get that.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I just want to make sure we get back on track on nutrition, although it's not, you know, it's not completely unrelated. I know that. Okay. I just know that we still have a couple more questions. So let's just run through the do's and don'ts really quickly. Okay. And we can have a separate discussion on that, because I do feel there's a lot of information that's passionate, and I love that. Okay. And I love both of your perspective. I appreciate it. So I want to go to Linda first then. Do's and don'ts, because you haven't spoken for a little while, okay?
And I would absolutely support hearing more about the balance of hormones as you age, because it is a fascinating subject, and all the different types of estrogen. It's not just estrogen. There are different types, and they change as we age. So we have to support them all. Very briefly, one of the big don'ts, I would say, is don't get caught up, and Brenda just touched on this, don't get caught up with the hype. There are a lot of things when you doom scrolling through Facebook and they say, do this one thing and it'll melt your belly fat. And I see so many one things that are going to melt it. And it's not that easy. And it shouldn't be that easy, because that means you can ignore the rest of your health. So be very discerning when you look at these things that say they're going to help. And actually research them, find out why are they saying that's going to help. Don't just jump on the bandwagon and keep trying this new thing, that new thing, the other new thing. Be more discerning for your body. And Chizra and I were talking about this before. If your body was a high performance sports car, you wouldn't be chucking all sorts of weird stuff at it. You would be very discerning as to what fuel you put in it. Treat your body at least as good as your car, preferably better, because spare parts are a lot harder to come by. You can't nip down to Autobahn and grab a new spare part. So you pretty much get one shot at looking after this body. Don't keep throwing all of these hyped up cures at it. You know, by all means, if it's a well-researched and well-supported thing, and you think, okay, I can include that in my overall diet, you know, give it a try. The other one, and I think everyone's touched on this, is about carbs. Don't demonize carbs. As females, we don't do well on a strong keto diet or paleo diet. You do need more protein as you age, because you get this thing called sarcopenia, which is where, as Chizza mentioned, that your muscles do tend to break down. One of the things you counteract that is eat more protein. Your muscles are made up of protein. They break down into amino acids, which your body needs. So you need to put protein in order to rebuild them. So make sure that you just tweak that protein up and make it a good quality protein. You need to be anti-inflammatory as well, for all the reasons mentioned before. So if you can have a good quality protein that's also anti-inflammatory, excellent. Things like your oily fishes, your salmons, your mackerels, sardines, they are so good to include in the diet. And also don't demonize fats. I only use 3 fats in the majority of my cooking, and it's extra virgin olive oil. Always go the extra virgin and make sure it's a good quality, not your generic one you buy off the shelf, because they do go rancid and quite often they're a lot older. Check the date that your oil was actually pressed. If you can't see the date, don't buy it. because rancid oil is inflammatory. You're kind of defeating the purpose. I use butter. I use a good quality butter. Nothing wrong with that. It's a natural product. Obviously, use it sparingly. And I also use coconut oil because it's got medium chain fatty acids, which are really good for the body. They are a saturated fat, but not the nasty salt. So yeah, don't be caught up in the fact that it is saturated. It's actually very good for you. So try and keep everything back to the way our ancestors used to eat. Don't go on all these weird, crazy rabbit warrens of health. Keep it simple and really look after your body better than you do your car. So that's all I'm going to say for now.
Thank you. And I'm proud to say I tick all 3 fats. Yay. Fantastic. Okay, you and Giselle?
I tick all 3 fats as well. I think an exciting thing for us is that we are living old. We're living longer now. A woman hits menopause in Australia at 51, but the life expectancy continues to increase. They say that a girl child born today will live to be 100. And so I guess what I'm getting at is that for the next 40 years that we're most probably going to be alive, we want to be more than just surviving. And so what we eat is really, really important. I talk about the crowding out theory. I don't believe that we should deny ourselves anything, but what we should do is put in so much good stuff first that it leaves very little room for the stuff that is more problematic. Most of us as menopausal women will notice that we feel a lot more achy. We are slower to jump out of bed. We feel fatigued, etc. Food is medicine. It's amazing what the power of food will do for those aches and for the way that you feel. And so when I talk about a whole foods diet, that's really what the focus should be. Eating as nature intended, I keep talking about. And so it's trying to get enough whole foods into your diet, knowing that they're really going to support your gut microbiome, which really is the seat of health or disease. And so the good thing is that it's not just that they say we should be trying to get about 30 different fruit and veg into the diet a week, but nuts and seeds are also beneficial. They are also looking at polyphenols, and they talk about coffee and tea having polyphenols in them as well. So it's interesting how I've always, as a menopausal woman myself and with clients who have high stress, I always talk about keeping coffee, to a minimum because it does spike cortisol. And then I read that it's rich in polyphenols. So, we're not saying don't have any coffee, but I guess what I'm trying to say is the things that provide pleasure can sometimes be the things that are driving our symptoms. So while I'm saying that you should not have them, I'm saying let's get enough good stuff into the diet. Linda mentioned oily fish. I'm mentioning lots of different colored fruit and vegetables. We are all creatures of habit. We tend to eat the same way. I say to my clients, if I were to ask you for your shopping list from last week, and from last month and from last year, they'd pretty much be the same because we like what we like. But our gut bacteria actually need variety. They need for us to choose different brightly colored fruits and vegetables to keep their numbers nice and diverse and also to increase their quantities. It's both diversity in our gut bacteria and good numbers that are going to keep us healthy. So, yeah, I think I've spoken for long enough. Is that?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. Let's go straight over to Brenda.
Yeah, I'm going to say something else controversial. Just because I'm over 50 and I'm allowed to have an opinion now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say don't be vegan. It's very difficult to be vegan and to get adequate fat, adequate protein, and to not overdo the carbohydrates. I think vegan is being pushed by the big pharma industry, the big chemical industry, and it's there's not a lot of evidence, long-term evidence supporting it as a healthy diet. It's great short-term. So, unfortunately, after 50, we're not reproductive. So the impact of our diet on our children is minimal, is zero. So you can pretty much do whatever you want, but generally, I'd recommend reconsider veganism and just be very careful with vegetarianism as well. I think eating eggs and fermented dairy is very important. We've demonized meat as well over the last 50, 60 years. And our grandmothers and our ancestors ate meat as a wonderful source of protein. And I think it's wonderful too. The other thing I would say is don't take too many supplements. Spend your money on good food rather than bottles of this and bottles of that, most of which is synthetic. Try and find supplements, like instead of taking vitamin D and vitamin A that are synthesized, then take some cod liver oil, which is amazing. Good quality cod liver oil, which has those nutrients in them. The fat soluble nutrients are super important. I'll stop there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Because of timing, I'm going to skip question 4. We're going to go straight to question 5. So we're just to help us round up. And I know there's a couple of comments in the chat, and I will read them at the end. If anyone needs to leave dead on time, please do. We might go about 5 minutes over. So
I need to leave dead on time because I've got a client.
Okay, well, let's do this question, and you go first. Okay, the last question is, what is one thing women can do today to improve their health? Go for it, Brenda. So you go, and then you can sneak out when you need to, okay?
I've had so many opinions now, I've got to think about what my answer. One thing that you can do, I would say, this is kind of nutritional, is to have a professional network. You know, find your favorite nutritionist, find your favorite massage therapist, find your favorite doctor, GP who listens to you, treats you like a grown-up and a queen like you are, and spend a bit of money on yourself. You know, we spend it on the kids and we spend it on the car and we spend it on everyone else, but invest in yourself and treat yourself like royalty, because you as a postmenopausal woman, a valuable elder of our community, a community leader, a woman who's got oomph, you deserve to be well. And sometimes you can't do that on your own. And sometimes you shouldn't just put up with it. So that would be the one thing that I would suggest. And certainly myself or Chiza or Linda, can I just give my offer, Faith?
Sure.
Or we can do it later, but I have a beautiful monthly.
As you got to go off, just do it now. That's fine.
Okay, I have a beautiful monthly membership, which includes my nightly, once a week, nutrition class and a 15-minute session with me per month, and texting. You know, you can text back and forth questions, and that's $97 a month. If you'd like to talk to me about that, you know how to reach me. I have a free discovery session as well, so that we can chat about what you're looking for. So,
right. I'll put the details in the follow-up. So I'll put everyone's details. That's fine, so people can follow up. Okay.
And thank you so much for listening and for paying attention and for laughing when I said something funny. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Faith.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to Chiza.
Put yourself first.
Yeah.
Unapologetically. Really. Whether you've had kids or not, it's important to put you first, because these times can be very trying, and a lot of women feel very, very isolated. They feel very alone. I make sure that my ladies do something nice for themselves every week without feeling guilty, whether it's going for a massage, going out for a nice meal, buying themselves something. You've got to feel good to actually then be motivated to continue that journey of loving yourself by eating better. Movement and all those things, yes, but doing something that you love for you without guilt is what I'd say.
Yeah, beautiful. Linda.
I know you said before there shouldn't be an echo chamber, but it is kind of turning into it, because I think we all are on that thing where we need to understand ourselves and our needs, and we need to be able to speak that. So my one thing would be to do a health audit. And this is something I do with my clients, where I say, okay, get a piece of paper and put all the things that you love about your body and your health and your lifestyle, because your lifestyle is so important. This isn't just about food. And then put another in the other column, put all the things that you want to change. And it's amazing how those columns change over time. Initially, you have a few things that they like and a heap of things that they want to change. Then pick one thing that you want to change. And a big thing for women, because we're almost socially conditioned to be servers rather than leaders, and we tend to put others first. And it's the old adage of you can't pour from an empty cup. So how are you going to fill your cup? And boundaries are a huge thing. A lot of the work I do is about people putting boundaries up. Like, you know, if you're cooking 3 different meals for your family members, then by the time you get there, you're just going to eat a packet of chippies at the end because you're just exhausted. That's not the way it should be. You can't pour from an empty cup, and the older you get, the harder it gets to fill that cup. So make cup filling a priority. You know, do the health audit, do the what's working for me, what's not working for me. Pick one thing, nail it, speak what you want. You know, if you need half an hour on your own without people hassling you, and it's hard when you've got older parents you're looking after, or, you know, children who are maybe having to be run around places and supporting grandchildren, say no. If you need the half an hour, say, I'm sorry, I'm not available that time. That's my time. So be strong in yourself, take what you need, fill your own cup. But the health audit on a piece of paper, stuck somewhere you can see it regularly, is a really good idea. And it feels good when you tick those things off.
Beautiful. That's great. I know that Brenda's going to jump off, so I just want to jump into the chat quickly. So Dr. Jane had a question for Chiza and Brenda. So Brenda, I'll just get you to do a minute because I know you've got to go off. What effect would hysterectomy have on a hormonal balance for menopausal women? So I had a hysterectomy as well, so I'm curious about this question. So why don't we go to you, Brenda? I don't know if you can add anything to that.
Oh, well, it depends on whether the ovaries have been removed as well, of course. Yeah, hysterectomy is massive. Nothing wrong with it at all, by the way. For some women, it's total relief from fibroids and endometriosis and that kind of thing. So no judgment whatsoever. My approach is holistic. I keep going back to just think general health. General health will support hormone health. General health will support microbiome. General health will support brain health. So, you know, what do we need to be to have good energy, to have a good poop, to have good positive mindset? And, you know, what works for the whole will work for the individual.
Right. Thank you.
Quick answer.
Yeah, that's okay. No problem. I know you've got to jump off, so you just do what you need to do, and we'll speak soon. Okay. Thank you. So Chiza, that question, what effect would hysterectomy have on the hormonal balance for the menopausal woman?
I think the effect would be different depending on whether the ovaries were preserved or removed. I think the greatest effect that a hysterectomy has on the hormonal balance is when the ovaries have been taken. Because when the ovaries are removed, you will find that in a lot of women, they will start to experience those signs of menopause quite dramatically. And so a lot of women will actually find that without their hormones, because in some cases, a hysterectomy can happen when a woman is in her younger years. We have women who actually go into menopause prematurely because of cancers that have been found in the uterus, and they've had that radical hysterectomy, which has forced them into menopause. So where a woman has had her ovaries removed and she is menopausal, she may sometimes experience symptoms that can be definitely improved or modulated by giving her some HRT. So the answer to the question is, it really depends on whether she has her ovaries or not.
Okay. And my experience was I had what's called a surgically induced menopause, because I had a hysterectomy at 46. And I was told that they kept one ovary, so I should be okay. But I actually went into menopause very quickly afterwards. So that's exactly that example that you're giving.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Jen, I hope that answered your question. If not, you can contact Chiza and Brenda to go through this a little bit more. So I think that's it. Okay, we've got 1 minute left. I'm going to do some housekeeping, but let me just open the space for one question, okay? Anyone that needs to leave, please feel free to leave. Anyone got one question for either Chiza or Linda, or both of them? We'll try and answer. Okay, go Sasha.
Hi, good morning. It's been, really interesting to listen. And I have 100 questions, but I'll try and condense it quickly to, I'm 51. I have been relatively healthy and active and nutritionally quite sound for, the last 20 years of my life, but I've recently been diagnosed with bone-on-bone osteoarthritis in both my hips, and I'm 3 weeks post-hip replacement, and I feel this I'm very opposed to big pharma and your hospitals and intervention, and it's been really challenging to accept that I can't fix this situation other than accepting what feels like a very powerless experience of having my bones amputated and reinserted with prosthesis, and the recovery, which is extremely long. So I just really struggle with the need. And also it's been very interesting about the HRT, because I am perimenopausal, and I've gone on over 1.5 years patches for HRT, and it's been really helpful for me, actually. And but I still have this, no intervention, you must be natural and pure. So I really struggle with that. So I don't know if it's a question, maybe a reassurance, or
I'll jump in.
Thank you.
It's such an individual thing. It's such a personal thing as well. There should be no judgment, right? You deserve to feel well. You deserve to feel functional. And whatever it takes to make you feel that way is okay, right? I won't demonize any decision a woman takes. What my role is to guide you and to give you, I look at what you're doing, I look at your lifestyle, and I look at how I can help improve things where I can see that they may be driving whatever the concern is. And if I feel that those things have not been successful, I will most certainly then refer you to the Australasian Menopause Society to have a chat to a specialist to see whether HRT is an option for you. It's not for everybody, and it's certainly not a panacea. It has got to be part of a holistic approach. But for some women, like you just said, it's a lifesaver. And that's why I don't demonize it. I only went on it because it was from wild yam or soy. I would never have touched anything else that was, in its previous form. So we want women to thrive and to do the best that they can as they move forward, into their later years. I don't want to be sipping on milky tea, sitting in a rocking chair, watching TV and being inactive as an 80-year-old. I want to be out there and still living life to the fullest. And we can only do that by exercise and by nutrition and really optimizing what we put into our bodies.
Beautiful. Okay, let's go to Linda and then we'll wrap up. Go for it, Linda.
Yeah, I would say if I'm hit by a car, I'd say call an ambulance. Don't wave ashwagandha under my nose or something like that. I want Western medicine. It's got its place. Both my parents would be deceased now if it wasn't for Western medicine. They've both had open heart surgery and valve replacement and all sorts. Don't knock it. It's definitely got its place. If that's what you had to do to keep yourself active and vital and living your best life, embrace it. That this has given you a new lease on life, because the alternative is not good. Sometimes our bodies work against us. No matter what we do, they will work against us. I've got a spinal condition. I've got a vertebrae missing out my spine. I was born with it. I know that ultimately I'm going to need help with that. And I'm going to take it when it comes, because I want to be, as I said in the beginning, I want to be running down the beach in my 80s, like with the dog. Embrace what Western medicine can do for us and support it with the best lifestyle that you can. Use those hips, get out there and, see the world. Don't let it hold you back. See it as a new beginning, because that's given you a huge amount of freedom. And you already, you're doing a lot of good things. This has just added to it and allowed you a longer time to be doing all of those good things. So embrace it and love those hips, because they're going to take you a long way. Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope so. I'm not quite jumping for joy yet. I'm still on walking sticks, and it feels like I can't quite see that yet, but definitely.
Put that goal. Put that goal of something you want to achieve. My father's had both his hips replaced, and before his spine gave up on him, he actually was walking 5-10 kilometers a day. So they absolutely will heal. Yes, it's frustrating. Try and do meditations and things like that to really calm your body down, because that if you're stressed, it's going to affect your gut and is going to be inflammatory, etc. Calm everything down, start loving them, give them a little pat every now and then and say, thank you, hips. And, you know, let's go on this journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Oh, I can see, Lorraine, you want to
Yes,
ask?
please, I'd love to just jump in here, Sasha, because the subject or the statement was made slightly earlier about weight-bearing exercise, but now exercise has come so much further.
Mm.
And in the last 4 months, I've been attending the Kaiser Founder Gym with new scientific, and their slogan is, and you know, I foo-fooed it. I've never been, I'm not a gym person, but it is a machines that your normal gyms don't have. And I think it was you, Chisa, that said, you've got to build the muscle around the structure to support the ongoing exercise. I don't know, Sasha, I'm assuming, this is an assumption, that you've maybe done, I don't know, tennis or something weight heavy exercise, have you? You've never done any competitive exercise?
No, I'm not competitive. I'm a yoga teacher and I've walked across.
Okay, so
Yeah,
no,
you-
you haven't. However, that building now of the muscle mass that we are going to lose from 40 or before has really, I'm 76. And I'm really saying, when you've had, even before your operations, that is something look at, girls, and investigate. Building your body mass, supervised though, not just lifting weights.
Let me just round up. So everyone, let me just round up and close it because we're going into discussion. I'm happy to keep it open for a while, but let me just close this, okay? Because I want to just make sure our speakers can leave now because they've done their time. Okay, so let me just go to you. We can come back to you, Lorraine, I promise you.
I'm done.
Yes. Oh, thank you. So thank you, Chisa, and thank you so much as well, Linda, and Brenda's had to leave, of course. We want to thank you for this powerful, informative conversation. Thank you all for joining us. I'm just going to stop the recording right now.